What's up, my friends? Dave Moss Jr. here, and in this video I want to go over my experience and the difference between cold plunging laying down in a trough versus cold plunging squatting down in a barrel. Let's get into it. So really, before we get into just physically what it is, we got to talk about mentally and biologically what cold plunging and cold water therapy does in comparison to cryotherapy and really any other stresses, controlled stresses that we put on our body. So here's the difference between cryotherapy and cold plunging and getting into water. Cryotherapy is cold air hitting you. It's like walking outside when it's really, really cold versus getting into cold water. And if you've done both, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a pressure that's applied to the skin when you submerge into water, and that activates the vagus nerve, that activates the fight or flight, that tells your body this is a stressful environment. And that's part of why you see that increase in circulation and you start to feel that rush, and it's almost like a peace and a complete stress at the same exact time. So I don't really recommend cryotherapy. I know there's a time and a place for everything. So if you do it and you're an advocate for it, please let me know why in the comments below. I've done both multiple times. Obviously, I'm a huge advocate of cold plunging. So I feel personally a massive improvement in getting into cold water versus cold air. But that's just one thing. And that's one of the things you have to understand is when you get into cold water, you're activating this fight or flight mechanism in your body saying, oh my gosh, what is happening? This is a high stress environment. We need to kick it into gear. And that's what activates so many of the processes that happen inside the body that reduce inflammation, that help you to deal with stress, anxiety, and depression, that help to recover the muscles. So much happens inside the body when you get into cold water versus getting into cold air. And that's going to lead me into the difference between laying down and squatting down. All right, so the best way for me to explain this is by actually demonstrating it. So this is my Polar Monkey cold plunge. This is a continuous cold plunge, keeps my water all the way down to 37 degrees. It's awesome. So I'm gonna do this demo as I'm explaining it, right? So when you're laying down in a cold plunge, this is how I started, right? This is how a lot of people start. They get a horse trough, they fill it with ice, or they get into their bathtub and they make it as cold as possible. And when you're laying down, your body is in a relaxed state. It's a relaxed state, right? So when you're laying down in your bed, you're relaxing. When you're laying down in a cold plunge, you're relaxing. So it's kind of like a little bit of a reverse system. You're relaxing physically, but your body biologically is in panic mode, fight or flight. So it's a little bit of like two separate mechanisms are being activated at the same time. So there's definitely a time and place for both. Obviously, I'm a huge component for any cold plunge, whether it's laying down or squatting down. But as I'll show you in my ice barrel, there's some benefits to squatting down and getting into a barrel. Obviously, it's your preference on what you want, but this is my Polar Monkey. If you want to get one, there's a link in the description below with like a discount code and all that stuff. So definitely check it out. But here's what happens when you get into your cold plunge and you lay down. Your front's exposed and you're in a physically relaxed state, but my body inside is full-blown panicking. Circulation is happening. And what you want to do if you're laying down to get the maximum benefits is you want to move. You don't want to just chill. So even if you are laying down in a cold plunge and you have a cold plunge that you lay down in, make sure you're moving your wrists, you're trying to move your arms. You want to make sure that you're moving your spine, you're wiggling your toes, and you're moving. Because if you're being chased by a bear, you're not going to lay down, and actually maybe you will. Never thought of it like that. So maybe you would just lay down. But you're typically going to be kind of activated. Your body's going to be activated and moving. So when your body's mechanisms are pushing around and circulating blood, circulating your hormones and getting things going, your fight or flight, you're probably not just laying down on the ground while this is happening. That's a high stress environment in a relaxed state. You want to be in a high stress environment controlled where you're ready to fight, right? You're ready to pounce. So when you're laying down, obviously it's a relaxed position. And when you want to get cold, whether you're laying down or squatting is good. But let me show you the difference in when you get into a ice barrel or an upright squatted cold plunge. All right, so a couple initial things when you get into an ice barrel. Your feet are typically going to be flat on the ground and you're squatting into it. So like it's an activation pose. You're squatting. I know it's hard to see, you can kind of see my knees right here, but my knees are in my chest and I'm squatted in here. I'm 6'1", so there's plenty of room in this. There's a lot of room. It may not feel or look like it in the camera, but trust me when I tell you there's plenty of room in this. I've had some bigger boys get in my ice barrel and they're like, wow, there's a lot of room in here. But that's not the point of this video. A couple things that I like about getting into a barrel as opposed to laying down in a trough, and I love both, is my spine is more in an activated pose. My spine is a little bit straighter. It's not curved like when you're laying down with your head elevated. Your spine tends to curve a little bit. Whereas when I'm squatting down, I'm sitting upright, right? I can have my back against the wall here. It's very ergonomic, it's very comfortable. So there's definitely a place for both. But I like the activation pose of getting into the ice barrel. So I get in the ice barrel a little bit more than I'll get into my trough. Once again, there's a time and a place for both, and depending on your preference, some people like to just get in and relax, and that's totally fine. I do too. I get in my polar monkey about 50% of the time, right? So I just wanted to explain the differences between laying down and sitting down, some things that maybe you never thought about, some things that I really never thought about until I had both and I was doing and experimenting with both, and really what I felt and experienced. I'm not a scientist, so I can't explain like studies and all that stuff, but in my experiences, there's a little bit more of a relaxed position when you're laying down in a trough versus when you're squatting down in a barrel. And I personally like the activation of getting into the barrel myself. It's a little bit easier to it's probably easier to fully submerge and dunk in a trough unless, I mean, I'm 6'1", and I have to kind of like get into a real like circular pose to like put my face underwater. And almost hold myself under with the rim of the lip here. But that's fine. I mean, it is, once again, I'm activating myself. I'm not just slowly going underwater. So I like both, and I highly encourage anybody who's never experienced cold therapy to find a way to do it. If you have the means to get yourself one, I have a discount code for Ice Barrel right there in the description. Feel free to take advantage of that, as well as Polar Monkey, as well as Edge Theory Labs. I don't have my Edge Theory Labs out here right now, but that's another really good plunge. There's some really good plunges on the market, and one thing to take note of is you don't have to spend thousands of dollars on these crazy chillers and stuff. I know they've been selling out like crazy. I have a couple links to chillers that I recommend down below as well. And a lot of people reach out to me on Instagram. If you have any questions, feel free to do that. About, hey, the chiller's sold out, what should I do next? Honestly, get yourself an ice barrel and go get some ice. That's what this was made for, was ice, not so much these chillers. This is my little DIY setup. But get yourself an ice barrel and just use ice, because it's the same effect. It's actually, sometimes it might be even a little bit more fun to have ice rolling around in your water, and kind of looks cooler on camera too, not than just having these little tubes pushing cold water. But hey, this video is all about the differences between laying down and squatting down in your plunge. If you're getting cold today, that's awesome. If you like this video, please let me know with the like button so more people can see this video. That's the whole thing. So I'm not a YouTuber, I'm not like this, I have a job, I love what I do, but I've obviously became an advocate for cold plunging, and I do like it when I see my videos growing, because it tells me that I'm helping people, and that's really my goal, is to get 1% better at something every single day. And if I can help you get 1% better by sharing my experience of cold plunging, and it encourages you to go get cold yourself and take care of your health, then I'm winning, and that makes me feel good. So you guys all have a great day. I'll see you on the next video, and God bless.